If you really love me, you would do this for me. Think of our reputation. Think about what other people will think. I've given you everything, and this is how you repay me. Do any of these sound familiar? Have you experienced a parental guilt trip? If so, you're not alone. My name is Cassandra Mullock, and I am the creator of Chaos Reimagined. So welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. Let's start with exploring what guilt trips are. Guilt tripping is a manipulation tactic where an individual uses guilt as a tool to make another person feel bad about their decisions or choices in order to make that individual change their behavior and comply to the other person's wishes. Now that we've explored the definition of guilt tripping, let's just take a moment to explore what the definition of guilt is. The definition of guilt says that we have done something deliberately wrong. So doing something wrong on purpose. And I just want you to reflect on that. In these scenarios, when my parents are guilt tripping me, am I doing something wrong on purpose? An example of this that I like to share with my clients is if I was going around deliberately hurting puppies, I should feel guilty about that. So now that you know what the definition of guilt is, I want you to start thinking about the times that you feel guilty. Myself included, as well as many of my clients often say, well, I just feel so guilty. I just feel so guilty. Oh, that makes me feel guilty. And really, when we start to think about that emotion of guilt, it is a healthy emotion if we are doing something deliberately wrong. If you aren't doing something deliberately wrong, what is being induced is a state called false guilt, which I will explain in a different video. It's important to recognize that as long as you're not doing something deliberately wrong, there may be some misplaced guilt there. You may be asking yourself, why do my parents guilt trip me? What's the purpose of doing that? A lot of it comes down to a lack of emotional maturity. Maybe your parents weren't role modeled appropriately how to express their feelings, desires, and wishes in a productive way. Maybe they grew up in an environment that was critical of them, or there wasn't a lot of discussion about feelings, emotions, or having these types of conversations. Now, I'm not excusing the behavior. The behavior is wrong. But what I'm asking you to do is start to empathize with their life experiences and how it's led them up to this point in terms of continuously guilt tripping. Empathy is the key tool to the first strategy we're going to be discussing, which is depersonalization. One thing I've learned throughout my career is that people will try to make you feel how they feel. So if you've ever been around someone who is a little bit more disgruntled, a little bit more angry, you kind of are on pins and needles around them, what they're trying to do subconsciously is make you feel how they feel. Maybe they don't feel worthy. Maybe they don't feel good enough. Maybe they lack self-esteem. Maybe they don't feel loved. We don't know what the causes are, and it's not our job to fix them, but we can empathize. So when we lead with empathy, we can start depersonalizing our parents' guilt trips because we can start recognizing that it has more to do with themselves and their unresolved feelings versus what we're doing and our behaviors. Now that we've started the journey of depersonalization, we can move into strategy number 2, which is listening and validating their experience. Again, I'm not saying that they are right in terms of guilt tripping you and making you feel bad, but what we can do from an empathetic standpoint is just to listen to them, let them feel heard, and then validate what their feelings are. That doesn't mean that we necessarily agree, but what it shows is that we're connected to them and we care about them. Now you may be asking, well, they don't do that for me. I want you to go back and remember that they may not have the emotional capacity to give you what you need. If you're interested in learning more about how to relate to them, I have a great video on attunement, which I will link in the description. Feel free to check it out. I also highly recommend reading this book, The Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. It was a game changer for me when I read it, and it helped me to really understand what emotional capacity is and how maybe my parents just don't have that capacity. Strategy 3, boundaries. Now, boundaries can be really tough, especially if we've never had to assert boundaries or if we don't really know how to set a boundary. So the best thing to do is start with an I statement. I feel, here we're going to insert an emotion, when you, and then we're going to insert a behavior. I feel sad when you don't listen to me. I feel angry when you talk over me. Now, again, if we're dealing with parents who don't necessarily have the emotional capacity, they may not get this right away. So we have to infuse a consequence. I feel sad when you yell at me, and if you continue, I am going to leave the room. I know this is hard stuff, but it's doable. So I encourage you to practice. I encourage you to start with small boundaries, which could be something like, I would like you to leave my door closed, or please knock before you come into my room. When we start small, we can build a foundation and continue to build on that and grow the confidence to be able to voice stronger boundaries when we feel like we're ready to. The last tip I'm going to give you is around stress management. It's really important to recognize the signs that we have when we are feeling stressed. Now, in another video that I've done, Stress Management for Beginners, I go through this, the nervous system, and the different stress response states that we can have. I'll link it to the description and highly encourage you to check it out. Thank you for watching today's video. If this was helpful to you, I'd love to hear which strategy you're going to try down in the comment section. Additionally, if you enjoyed this content, feel free to subscribe to this channel. Take care.